I'm so glad we're meeting for the first time. This is actually our first time ever chatting.
Same here.
And you guys have been doing this for a long time. You know, Felix, you said that CrossFit Fig has been in business since 2010. Is that accurate? Or 2011?
2011. Yeah. So we were Fig Fitness. It was that's our LLC, and we started off with boxing and kettlebell training.
And you said we, as in, so who was the first founders beside yourself?
It was just me and my wife. So we started the kettle box classes, and then that eventually evolved into CrossFit. Yeah.
Talk about that. What was the
Say it's a fun combo there.
transition?
Yeah, I mean, we were growing pretty fast, but it was a lot of work. I mean, I was holding mitts every day, teaching combos, and it was just me. And I had a client who would ask me, well, actually, I had someone on Facebook who messaged me if I did CrossFit, they would join my gym, and they had a couple of friends that would join. I had no idea what CrossFit was, so I kind of Googled it. That looks cool, but it didn't go anywhere from there. And then a client of ours approached me and said, I want to do CrossFit, and if you offer it, I'll pay for your certification. So I was like, wow.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
It was $1,000. Went to Boulder, Colorado, got my certification, did Fran for the first time in altitude.
You remember that time?
The time I remember 100%.
Okay.
8 minutes and 22 seconds. And
strict pull-ups, all of them.
100%. I did strict pull-up. Or no, the thrusters are first, 21.
What was your first round? You told me
fast. You know, thrusters, terrible form. I was holding the bar out here.
Oh yeah, you can't get the front rack.
Can't get the front rack. And nothing, no pain. Do my pull-ups strict, and I let go on the 21st pull-up, and my legs collapsed. I was like, oh, and then I knew I was screwed.
Yeah.
And then
Then your heart rate was 180.
and then I died, 8 minutes and 22 seconds. And then they're asking everybody, like, raise your hand if you did it under 10 minutes. And I was like, oh, that must be good. And I was 8:22. And I'm looking around, everyone has their hands raised. And then who did it under 5? And I see this girl who's next to me who I look at and I feel like I'm way fitter than her. And she's like under 5. And I'm like, man, I was hooked. It's that kind of feeling. Oh, I'm going to do better.
Competition, gotcha.
Yeah.
But since my fastest time was 2:22, and it still hasn't felt as bad as 8:22.
Wild how
terrible.
that works, right?
Yeah.
It's just, man, technique really matters.
Yeah, and breathing and all of it. I mean, it still hurt.
I also think the more times that you do Fran, the less and less you look forward to doing it. Because
just
every
don't do it
time you're
anymore.
just like, God.
You stop doing it.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah, man, you just know how much it's going to suck.
It's a mental thing.
Yeah.
It gets in your head. Oh, look, there's our last location. So that's our third
Look at that.
location. Never Fig Fitness. That's right before we moved there.
So the figure in this photo, obviously no relation here, but it's got boxing gloves on. Is that right?
Yeah. And that's because we were doing, the group fitness was kettle box. So we started off about 20 minutes of throwing combinations, throwing punches, hitting bags, then a 6 minute transition where we did all abs. And then we did a hit style like kettlebell circuit. So that was the kettle box.
You're getting in shape, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
That's a whole lot of heart rate.
When you first started, this was 2010?
2011.
2011. By then, CrossFit was definitely seeing some controversy in like the injuries, and it was the beginning of the internet and watching people do bad movements, bad technique in CrossFit gyms. Did any of that like kind of give you some pause when you were deciding to switch over?
No, because I knew that I had control within my own environment. Now, I didn't have control what people thought of it. Mm-hmm. And after doing it myself, I saw it was the future, at least for us. I'd played sports my whole life, through college, worked out since I was 13. And this was my favorite form of fitness out of all of them. So I was like, I didn't really care about that at the time. And I knew I was a good coach. I knew I cared about the technique. And so...
You played football in college.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think there's a big correlation there where it's like, you get done with playing sports and, when you're doing your workouts for college football or any kind of college athletics, a lot of it feels somewhat similar to what you would find in a CrossFit workout. It's a lot of competing. It's a lot of mixture of, cardio-based stuff with strength-based stuff. I just hear that a lot out of former athletes.
Yeah. It feels a lot like you're back into your team
glory days.
The glory days.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dude, it's train, like just the bottom line is when you grow up training in the gyms and you got your whole team around you, there's just a totally different feel to it than you're just walking around a gym by yourself.
Well, that's the same thing with
so
like
different.
classes too. Like there's more than just one person in class. So it definitely feels like you're a part of a team in just that hour class as opposed to going to the gym, putting your headphones in, not talking to anyone or that kind of thing.
We celebrate the collective suffering in our company. And so we try to still do at least every quarter a good workout with all of our managers and try to include everybody just because, the more you sweat together, the more you bond.
You got to send them out to Fig. Yeah.
We should do one.
Yeah,
dude.
do it. All,
We're totally in.
Yeah, we'd be in for sure.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Just to circle back on the injury thing. Another reason I wasn't too concerned is because it's so new. People been running since the beginning of time. And they're getting hurt running, right? Overuse injuries, rolling their ankle. Nobody talks about that. As a matter of fact, like my doctor said, I'd see more people here for injuries for running or sports they're playing than CrossFit, but it's so new that it's kind of the newest thing to talk about.
Right.
I mean, right now it's like pickleball, right? Everyone's talking about the injuries in pickleball. So, and luckily, we've evolved. All the CrossFit gyms have evolved. The ones that sucked, that were getting people hurt, they're gone. The ones that are still around, they're doing it right. So.
Yeah, I see it.
I noticed that strongly as well.
It really doesn't matter what type of workout you're doing from an injury standpoint, because I see people doing stupid stuff in all different types of training. So I've always thought that was kind of a funny. It was just like the new thing. Watching somebody do an Olympic lift terribly when you're not even familiar with what an Olympic lift should look like and you're watching it online. I remember during that time there was a lot of that going on where it was, somebody trying to snatch, like a, middle-aged lady trying to snatch that, had no technique behind it and it looked awful, but you see way less of that now. Like
and what's going to get more views, that lady dropping a barbell on the back of her head or a perfect snatch from a 35-year-old lady?
Yeah.
It's going to be that someone dropping their barbell.
Fail every time.
For sure.
All the fails get the views. Yeah.
For sure.
And I'll say this too, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in the fitness industry, I feel like, CrossFit was maybe one of the last, I wouldn't say like a fad, but a craze, if you will, where, everybody had something to say. I haven't seen a polarizing thing happen since where it's like been that level of like, everybody feels like they have to have an opinion on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
People bring it up and it's just like, you don't have to say anything. Like you've never, like the amount of people that used to come into our store when I would be working the counter and have either something overwhelmingly positive, right? First rule of CrossFit, always talk about CrossFit, right?
That's one of the first YouTube videos I saw.
Classic, or the other way around, or it's like, just because they had a friend, leave the gym that they went to go do a CrossFit gym, it's like they had so many negative things to say, and it's just like, how can you speak on something you don't practice?
Well, that's like old like CrossFit, like the original owner of CrossFit, the creator of it, like he was very adamant. Yes.
Greg Glassman, yeah.
Very adamant about not talking crap on other types of fitness. Like meaning that like if we do CrossFit, so be it. Like we're gonna do CrossFit. If you do powerlifting, you do powerlifting, that's fine. There's nothing inherently wrong with either one. But like you should not be, doing an Ironman's stupid. Well, no, just because you do CrossFit doesn't mean that's stupid. Like any fitness is better than no fitness. So it doesn't really matter. But I think a lot of people, when CrossFit started, and when like I even got into it, it was like where CrossFit sucks. And I'm like, well, you haven't ever been to a class. So how can you speak on it? And have you been to a class that's coached? Because you see a lot of videos where like you see the videos and you're like, oh, hey, like this person does a horrible, like, where's the coach? Show me the video that there's a coach. The other angle of the coach, it's probably some person doing open gym, whatever it might be. And like they're doing something.
Or they're in their garage.
That they shouldn't be doing. But they don't know better if they're not being coached by it. So
and I totally agree with you, Chad. I feel like those are videos that, like, the points that you're making. It's like I'd hope that wasn't what people are arguing over, because it's just like, I mean, come on.
But it is.
You can't. You don't want to point at the worst example of something and call like that's what's the norm, right?
I also think that there was, during that time frame of CrossFit, there was a lot of like people that were entrenched in the way that they train. And you see these people that are now, I can, run a 6-minute mile and I also can back squat 400. And I think that people that were entrenched in their type of training were looking at that and saying,
well, that is you personally, Kyle. I mean, I'm
going to throw some stones at that type of training, because it's like, making me feel like inferior.
So I'd love to hear. I'd ask you this. Do you remember how you felt about it? Because you know, now that I
I
we've
felt
been
like
talking
it
about
made it. I couldn't run. I couldn't run a 400 at that point in my life. So I saw that, and I
Kyle's
was
like
just like,
260.
I was like, that is
wow.
so
But
far away
jacked.
from like what
Huge.
I could do. So I'm just
260?
not going.
He was 260,
But jacked.
Jacked. Yes.
Oh.
He
He was jacked.
pretty high body fat percentage, but I was 260.
he didn't have a high body fat percentage. He's just being really kind.
He's being modest.
Yes.
Well,
I was really deep into powerlifting when CrossFit was going on. It was
His
like
neck was just
my main thing was powerlifting.
And
but I
It
also
looked like the juggernaut.
oh, the juggernaut. Yes, don't get down the Marvel path.
I was a straight box.
We're not going back to CrossFit if that happens. So
I was just a box.
But
I did when CrossFit started, because at the time, if you guys remember, I mean, I don't know how well you guys are versed in powerlifting. There was multiply powerlifting, which is like what you would see on the internet, where people would like look like they're half squatting in these suits that were basically packing them in. CrossFit came along, and then all of a sudden you would see a flood of people into powerlifting meets, and none of them wanted to lift multiply. None of them wanted to lift.
Everything was raw.
Everything was raw, and it was all
Did that
people.
change the sport?
It was all from CrossFit,
Wow.
basically. A lot of people that had tried CrossFit out, and they're like, "Hey, I hadn't
Olympic lifting was growing.
I hadn't
you know?
squatted, I hadn't
absolutely.
deadlifted before, but like now they want to get into it and they want to do it." You know, there was also other factors going into that. There was really high level powerlifters coming in that were doing everything without any kind of gear, but it was just a lot of it I would attribute to CrossFit and the popularity of CrossFit at that time, and just getting barbell movements in front of people on social media, which I feel like hadn't been, you know,
Certainly wasn't prominent.
Yeah, it wasn't.
No.
Video
not at all.
video in general wasn't prominent at that time, which
That's
is
true.
wild to think about.
That's a good point.
Not a lot of video at all, right? I mean, if there was, it was during the heyday of Vine of 6-second videos.
Yeah, right.
But
Well,
there
you-
was this is the point I wanted to make sure I made while we're on this topic, and that was, I'll never forget, like some light bulbs were going
Stop
off.
trying to look for fat pictures of me, Luke.
I see. Yeah, Luke's been, they're all terrible. They're all
I can
they're
see
all
you
super
I can see
original
what you're
Instagram
trying
filtered.
to do.
Here you go.
I wish you would stop, dude.
Beefy.
Oh, you guys see
He's
what I'm
a
talking
tank.
about. I was
You are
I was a
tank.
little
You do
heavy.
look like the juggernaut.
Yeah, I was a
looks like Austin
little
Gunn.
heavy.
Is that Dave?
Dave Liza,
My gosh. All right. So
buddy.
we're at a, so imagine this. This is why, so this all goes back to fitness is very much centered in ego, right? And people's rituals that how they do like to do things. And I'll never forget, CrossFit was really challenging a lot of people's like what is best, right? Because what is best seemingly changes every couple of years. People have new theories on what they think is the most ideal, or optimizing your performance in some capacity, right? And I'll never forget, I'm at a dinner at a CrossFit event. It might have been HOA, and it's like the head sponsor is meeting with one of the head guys on the CrossFit teams and stuff, and we're all sitting around having dinner. And the guy that owned this supplement brand used to play professional baseball, and the guy across from him is like, we're talking on a
Still be
scale.
a good opinion for you to have.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a scale of 1 to 10 on the CrossFit scale. This guy's probably a 6 as far as his level of talent within the CrossFit community. And he's like, dude, he's like, man, this is the baseball player talking, right? Former baseball player. He said, wait till all these other real athletes start getting into CrossFit. Like, wait till some, you take a third string running back up from Arkansas that played college football, and you put him in CrossFit, he's just going to crush everybody.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, absolutely not. And he's like, baseball players are like the worst athletes out of all professional athletes. And he was like, CrossFit athletes would just run circles around baseball players.
It depends on
And
the
it was,
position.
and it was
Rich Froning was a
I was about
baseball
to see a
player.
fight.
Yeah, he was.
I was about
Yeah.
to see a fist fight.
Oh, I
dude.
see here. Yeah.
He was getting really, really uncomfortable at this dinner.
Yeah.
And it was just because this guy was like, he had played professional baseball, and this guy across from his who's like mediocre at CrossFit at the time is telling him that he's a better athlete than him.
Yeah.
But he didn't know he was doing that. And so anyways, your take on this, Chad, I'd love to know. It's like, because we've seen it now. It's like, CrossFit's been around long enough. We've seen a lot of players, or a lot of people who've gone from one sport to another, and it hasn't turned them into a freak CrossFit athlete. A ton. There's not
Cole,
a ton.
what's Cole?
Grease shaper?
Yeah.
I don't think he played any sports.
Ex-gymnast.
and none
okay.
of them, but they're not high level.
No, he played
No,
for
Cole-
Washington.
oh.
Cole
No, that's a different Cole. Cole Sager.
Cole Sager.
Yeah.
He was a running back for Washington. Rich
he a-
Froning was a baseball player.
Yeah.
Then you have
Sure.
Well, he wasn't. I
like
don't
none
think he
of
was
them
a
were-
good
None of them
baseball
were.
player.
That's what I'm saying.
I
Like,
think
none
he was
of them
like
were
he was
prominent
like
in one sport.
decent.
Oh, he was like he
I think
never
it's one
played
of those,
in
like
college.
one of the things that he did play in college, but I think it was a
like division
Community
3
college.
or
yeah. I don't know.
something.
You'd have to find it. I don't know, but it wasn't.
If it was
I think
good
high
enough,
level,
we'd all know.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a couple of thoughts on that.
Yeah.
First of all, like a football player, you can't just say that because you have lanky
Offensive
wide
linemen
receivers,
or-
offensive
yeah.
linemen. So maybe a running back, safety, corner, they'd do well. But a lot of the best CrossFitters physically, and I'm not a doctor of any kind, but I look at them and I look at their body types. I'm like, this guy's great at everything CrossFit, but he'd be a terrible sprinter.
Yeah.
Because of his anatomy, the way he's structured. He could be explosive, but he won't be fast. And so a lot of these CrossFitters have features that make them great CrossFitters, and they're explosive, and their ability to process oxygen is world class. But outside of that, getting them into a sport, it's going to be rare, I think, to see an elite CrossFitter be great at a sport.
But I think they're better than the average person, though. So meaning, if you were
But they're freaks. The ability to squat, like you said, a ton and process oxygen the way they do, they're like the lungs of a swimmer with the strength of a defensive lineman, and they're well-rounded. I think they're the best athletes in the world, in my opinion. I just don't think they could be elite
In
at
one
a sport,
specific.
at one
yeah.
specific sport.
Yeah.
I'd say the same
Generally
thing.
speaking.
Yeah, I like go back to pickleball kind of thing, like where any CrossFitter probably that does it at a decently high level would be good at pickleball, and somebody like, oh, hey, you're really good at pickleball. Well, no, they're not really good at pickleball. They're just better than the person that doesn't have the same capacity or whatever it might be, or have the same mindset and skills that they've created through CrossFit and what they've done in their past, that kind of thing. So it's like not really.
And by nature, like CrossFit is to prepare you for life in every
Yes,
facet.
for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
Prepare for the unknowns, what they say. And I want to go back on my statement on, I think I said,
You
they're
can't
the
go
best-
back, dude.
Yeah,
No.
I can't.
It's
Redact.
yeah, it's live.
I said CrossFitters are the best athletes, and I'm wrong. I meant the fittest people in the world. They're not athletes. It's something different than being the fittest.
It's obviously very subjective.
I-
too, on that
I want-
aspect, right?
So someone's going to tear that
We
apart.
could-
Like
I have
"No, no,
it. I have a controversial a thought on baseball and athleticism. I think they're more just genetically superior in hand-eye coordination than overall athleticism.
Oh, you're
This
not
is
you're
just-
not hurting my feelings.
Okay, this is just my opinion on it because, and I kind of feel the same way about golf. It's like both of those just ridiculous talent with hand-eye coordination. But if you grew up playing baseball, some pitchers that are absolutely unathletic.
You're speaking to one. Yeah, legitimately. And I will
What's your
not-
baseball pass for our listeners, real quick, Chad?
Okay, so I played high school baseball. Played at Missouri. Played at Iowa Western. It's a community college in Council Bluffs, actually, in the same division as Felix played
Iowa
his junior
Central,
college.
Fort Dodge. It's really close.
But I just watched a lot of good baseball. I didn't really play college baseball. I watched a lot of good baseball in college. The first day at college, we had like every pitcher threw. There was 14 pitchers. There was 12 that threw over 90, and then 10, and the other 4 threw like 87, and I threw like 82. And I was the only other left-handed person that threw under 90. So I'm like, this is not the place for me. But I genuinely loved my time at Iowa Western. It was the coolest experience. The group of people. Junior college is the place for really, really good athletes, not the smartest human beings.
Very true.
Great athletes, just not the smartest people. So it was just interesting experience to like see that. Then I went to Missouri Southern, played there for a year, and actually this will get us back into CrossFit.
Joplin.
Yeah. Now I won't say what I was going to say. We'll say it off the mic. But so I went there. The coach and I kind of got into it a little bit about how I thought baseball was supposed to be played, kind of like
Sure.
where like I would see myself pitching in comparison to someone else pitching, kind of thing. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. I've grown up playing this, like that. You should compute it the same way I'm computing it. And like we like just kind of got into it. I'm like, okay, hey, like I'll finish the year and then I'm leaving. And that's actually how I got into starting CrossFit, which we kind of get into this, where I stopped playing baseball. Knew I wanted to coach. So I was like, well, I'm going to coach baseball. Well, if you quit baseball your junior year of college, you're not probably continuing a year and then going back into coaching. It's just not what I thought. So went to Mizzou for a year, and then actually went to Supplement Superstore. This is funny. And a guy was like, hey, did I see you at the rec? And he's like, no, I go to this CrossFit gym, CrossFit Fringe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
I know Fringe, dude. Yeah.
And he's like, you should try it. Like, come with me one day. I said, okay, well, I'm going home. So I search on my phone. I'm like, hey, closest CrossFit gym to my parents' house. It was CrossFit Fig. And I call Felix, and Felix answers the phone. I don't know if you remember this. And he's like,
Probably not.
He's like, hello. Like, music's blaring.
Sounds just
he's like literally like our office, like the office there was maybe like not even this table. It was literally like a big enough thing for a computer. And so you hear him, he's like, what? He's like, I'm like, hey, I want to try CrossFit. He's like, tomorrow at 8. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll be there. And like,
That was the very beginning.
He's screaming because like he obviously went in the office to take the call.
Yeah.
And like the class is going on obviously behind him. So I'm like, what is going on in there?
Yeah.
So his wife with the headphones earlier, same concept.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Just doesn't know how loud he is when he talks.
Yeah. So I ended up going in there the next day, and I'm like, okay, so
What year is this right now, Chad?
gosh, what was that?
2014.
14, 15, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
I've been at Fig for 9 years, 8 years, 9 years, something like that now.
Incredible.
But so actually, Andy was the old head coach at Fig.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I did my on ramp
Andy Newton.
with him, and I'm like, wow, I really like this. And I still have the Twitter message that I sent him. I'm like, hey, like, how do I get into coaching? All this stuff. And he's like, it's literally the most miserable thing because like, he's like, you don't get paid. You might not actually make a career out of it. So I'm like, okay, like, well, I just want to try it because I knew I wanted to coach and I just didn't know what I wanted to coach because baseball was kind of out. I'm like, okay, like, let's just go see. So I asked him like, okay, when's the next level one? And actually Fashma, his wife, and then a couple other members were doing the level one in Kansas City, like a couple weeks later. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do it. And then,
Yeah, I found out my wife's like, Chad's at the level 1. It's like the new guy who just started. Yeah. It's like, oh, I wonder why he's there. I had no, he never even expressed interest in coaching. He just went.
Yeah.
so to how this kind of all started, we ended up, he's like, you can shadow. And I remember this conversation behind basically like our restrooms, and there was a bunch of boxes, and like he pulled me around the corner. He's like, hey, he's like, we can't pay you anything, but like you can try this if you want, like just see if you like it. So he's like, hey, you can come shadow 2 hours. So I'd like shadow for 2 hours. Then one day he like looked at me because I was like kind of like backed like slowly. He's like, you can stay if you want and just be a part of like more classes. I'm like, okay. And since that day, for probably 2 years maybe straight, like it was almost every single hour. It wasn't based on pay. It was based on me just literally, I wanted to fast track myself and being good at what I was doing.
Yeah.
So literally from 5 a.m. to, I think our last class got done at 8. Every single day, wake up, do it again. Wake up, do it again.
I started telling Chad, you got to go home. You're going to get burnt out. Burnout's real.
He was young though, man.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
You can
Yeah.
Definition
hammer
of
it
young
when
and
you're that
hungry.
age.
Yeah. Sometimes I have this, get to the gym, I have this moment of like an hour where no one's there, especially when I was coaching the 5 a.m. So I'd get there at 4 o'clock. So I wake up at 3:30, get there 4 o'clock, and this motherfucker's in the building. I'm like, Chad, why are you here so early?
This is my hour,
This is
dude.
my
Get out of
hour.
here.
It took me like
no
3
kids,
months to
no
get
nothing. You get some time to yourself.
I just wanted the time. He was just there, ready to go. I'm like, oh, this guy's dedicated. He's annoying the shit out of me, but he's dedicated.
Yeah,
But that's just legitimately, that's how it started. And it was like, hey,
I love that story, man.
and then it was like one of those things like, hey, I'll give you $500, whatever. It's like, then it's like, and it was one of those things like, I wasn't expecting to ever really be full-time in all reality. My parents were gracious enough to be like, hey, stay at home, figure out, like, it didn't have any other job. Like literally was like, hey, just go see if you like it.
Gonna make this work.
Yeah. And so like thankful for my parents to be able to allow me to be a year of like just shadowing. And it wasn't, I just needed to see if I liked it or not in all reality. And then ever since, like I just haven't left.
Yeah.
It sounds like you you loved it, more so than anything.
Yeah, it was, Yeah, I don't really know. I got asked this from our guy that does our media stuff. He's like, why did you like CrossFit? Like, why did you get so ingrained in CrossFit? I'm like, I don't really have a good story about why I did it. It was more just like someone's like, hey, like try this. And then I saw kind of the coaching side of it. I'm like, oh, this is cool. You can coach more than just one thing. You have to be way better at doing 1,000 things than just being good at teaching one thing. Yeah. So that kind of like drew me to it kind of a little bit too.
Was it in the beginning, you know, I mean, for us here or anybody in the fitness space, a lot of times it's, you know, I think for me, the first time somebody came in, listened to my advice, went home, actually followed what I was telling them to do as far as their diet and like, you know, increasing their protein or whatever it was at the time, and came back in and they're like, dude, I'm down, you know, 10 pounds. For me, that was like a big sticking point. And I would guess with CrossFit, you probably get that quite a bit too. Yeah. Or, you know, with CrossFit, there's even more where it's like you watch somebody go from not being able to like do a body weight squat to being able to.
I actually just experienced that recently. I've been doing this for 13 years and I used to personal train. So I got to see like I write it down. Like, oh my God, you see this? You increased your squat by 30 pounds in 3 months. And it was very fulfilling, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
I got to cancel babysitting. And for the hour that I was there, I was only going to make, you know, what I charged. With group classes. You know, I could have 19 people in a class and I could work a little bit less. Yeah. Right. And so I recently just started personal training again, and same thing happened, right? He's my client improved his squat in 2 months. First of all, he could barely squat. Now he's got great form. He's up probably 50 pounds from the day he started, and everything's going up. And then it dawned on me that this is happening every day. I just don't see it because there's 19 people at a time, and people are like, I PR'd by 10 pounds, and you're like, that's awesome, but I don't witness it per se, because they're jumping around from class to class and I'm not coaching every class. But it was really, really cool to start personal training again, to then say, like, it's very rewarding for me, but I can be, it's happening every day.
Yeah.
I just don't see it like on that level. And it was a good reminder of what we're doing, because I kind of felt like I maybe lost sight of that a little bit. I know everyone's hitting PRs. I know they're doing great, but I didn't look at it with that microscope.
Yeah.
So
I definitely, you know, as far as CrossFit goes, it seems like that is the training modality that it creates the most PRs, you know, because like you were saying, you got to be good at coaching a million different things. Well, there's a million different things people can get good at. And it's actually, you know, one of the reasons why I like it so much is, you know, and I've said this on this podcast before, it's because you always have something you suck at. You know, so it's like you always have something you can work at. There's never a point. Well, I'll never get to a point where I'm like, I'm pretty good at all this.
I mean, improvements can be made, you know, everywhere. And that's why I feel like it's cool that every year the CrossFit Games typically adds, you know, some kind of element that's not normal, you know, that's not typical.
Do you guys look at the CrossFit Games as enhancing your business or detracting from your business?
Both.
This is kind of split.
I mean,
it's both.
This year is not a good example to talk about by any means.
Yeah.
I was on vacation, heading to Puerto Rico when that happened, and I couldn't enjoy my vacation for like a day and a half. It just kept repeating in my head.
Just such a gut punch, man.
Oh, yeah. It was terrible. And I don't know how many of the mainstream people saw that, but that was tough.
No, I mean, they were playing it on like CNN and stuff. They were playing it on like...
Yeah, I was on vacation. I didn't see
one of the hardest things you could ever watch.
Main news networks were like playing it, which I was like, there's some really bad publicity there.
And they kept up with the games the next day, which was just also wild to me. But, you know, that's probably what he would have wanted, and that's what his brother said.
It's an impossible decision to make as an organization. Like, we stop. I thought about this too. We stop, and then all these people that worked their butts off to make it here, most of them, maybe half of them will never make it again.
Right.
Just life. I mean, I remember competing with Greg and another fella. We went to Wadapalooza, and I remember we took second in the intermediate division, and then thinking we're going to be there again the next year and the next year and the next year. That was it. That was my peak.
Yeah.
And that's happening to these athletes. So if you just don't do it, then those people never have a shot again. But then again, if you do it, then you're going to have a lot of upset people that you kept going. So no one's winning.
It's the old damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah,
and I feel like I think they made their best decision for the sport, without a doubt.
I don't think anybody ever goes and says, we're just going to do this. Who cares? And that's what people act like. Like they're assholes. You know, they weren't trying to be assholes. They're trying to make the best decision possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, don't read the comments on those. You know what I mean? Just like,
well, it's a lot of people that are not like financially invested in CrossFit. They're like, just cancel it, you know? And it's like, like you were saying, from
never
the
been in
athlete
charge
standpoint
of any event ever.
You know, you think about all the sponsors that are there. You think about the, you know, facilities that they have rented out. And I mean, obviously that stuff's not, you know, worth a human life, but there's such a big event. And, you know, we were talking about triathlons before this. It's like people die in triathlons, people die in a lot of different sporting events, and it's never good, but it's also,
inherently
it's part of the danger of competing in, you know, something that has an open water swim, like that. So, you know, I don't know. I still don't really know how to feel about that specific situation. But it did seem like it cast a huge shadow over the CrossFit Games.
It also just felt very preventable when you watched
the whole
sadly.
thing.
It did feel preventable. That's the bad part. Like, they better learn
makes it
from
so
this.
hard to stomach, yeah.
And they better, like, it's like they didn't foresee the things that could go wrong. And as a business owner, I've always tried, and I'm sure you guys have done the same thing. We're going to try this out, but foresee what could be the problems. And if you see a couple of them in the way, maybe you abandon that and try something else. You know, we've approached by a handful of girls that were wanting to be on a competitive team. And they said, can you guys do a competitive team? We'll join your gym right now. So I sat and thought about it, and I foresaw the problems of, you know, the segregation of the athletes, the cool people, and then the regular people. And I turned them down.
Changes the culture immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think CrossFit might have not done a good enough job of foreseeing those problems in that situation.
I think to your question, though, I think that the games and what we do on a day-to-day basis are drastically different. So it's not going to affect. And I honestly, if you asked our members, I bet you maybe the 35, 40 members that are diehard CrossFit people, maybe it's more than that, but like they would know. But the person that comes 4 days a week and just like is doing it just for fun, they have no idea.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's one of those
following the sport. They're using it for the exercise.
They're just doing it just purely for the exercise. So I think that was kind of the thing, is like, where horrible event, but also like not affecting to our gym population, or someone walking and be like, oh my gosh, like this is the most dangerous thing ever. Like,
yeah.
The dichotomy of it though, with like Kyle's saying, is like, if we have such an extreme example for everybody to see, and they're broadcasting and saying like, this is the best example of our sport, is that going to detract the gen pop from feeling like that's for them?
Yeah.
Right. It's like, think about being a little kid, and I'd like watch a football practice when I was like a real little kid, like 5, 6 years old. And I'd be like, that looks like a little too intense. Like, it was just too intimidating for me to want to sign up for. And I was like watching 12-year-olds play. Like, of course it looks intimidating.
Oh, wow.
I'm 5 or 6.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's the same concept of what I think Kyle was trying to say, is like, the CrossFit Games for some gyms, some gym owners on this podcast have told us like it can be detracting from their member base, because it's such a scary thing for people to see. For some people, it's their only example that they have.
Well, I would challenge people to look at it this way. I love LeBron James. He is like my dude. I follow him everywhere. My wife can't stand him because I like him so much. Just like some people can't stand CrossFit because we like it so much.
Sure.
I watch him play, dunk, and do all these amazing things. That's not stopping me from going outside and shooting hoops. And that's what we're doing. We're shooting hoops in our backyard. We're not dunking on people and having to compete against the best. We're just shooting hoops and having a good time and getting fit while we're doing it. So that's what I want people to like think about.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I agree.
I think too.
same, but different.
Yeah. It's a
lot more enjoyable.
In that type of gym environment too, I'm guessing that you guys get most of your members by, I'm a member at your gym, I'm getting outstanding results. Jeff's my buddy. He's like, dude, I need to quit eating like crap. I want to get in better shape. And I'm going, come to the gym with me. I love my gym. It's awesome. Great culture, yada, yada, yada. And is that how you guys are getting most of your members?
90%. especially
It's all word of mouth.
Yeah.
our new location, the one you put up there earlier. We're on a main road twice a month, 3 times a month. Someone walk in like, I've been driving by and I'm ready to join. Our new location
Nice.
is hidden. So
Yeah, it's super hidden.
nobody comes by and like, hey, I've been driving by. I just decided to join. So it's a lot tougher where we're at, but we're still getting the referrals. 90% of our referrals are word of mouth from client to client. The rest are, I Googled it and
That
got
price,
lucky and
that
landed on you.
industrial price per foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the rent you're saying. Yeah. It's better than retail.
Say retail price per foot, industrial price per foot, very different.
Well, our last place was less though, because this is a long story I won't get into, but the owner of the old building, the previous owner, we were good buddies and he gave it to me. So I wish that would never change. I'd be loaded. He just hooked me up.
Rent.
I didn't realize it at the time. Like, this is a lot of money. I'm paying over triple what I was paying back then.
The square footage was the third, or what was the difference?
We
in square
were,
footage?
It's actually bigger now.
We're 8,000 now.
I would think.
Before we moved, we were 7,000. But when I was paying the best prices, we were at about 4,500 square feet. And that was a sweet spot right there.
Do you guys find yourselves wanting to grow further where you're at right now as far as the square footage goes?
No, the square footage is plenty. If anything, we don't have to be that big. We could be 6,000, be fine. Yeah. But it's really comfortable. We have a big open area. It's great for competitions, which I'd like to host one next year. We did 3 in the past and very successful. And then COVID hit and I lost my momentum, lost my mojo. And thinking about the work we put into it, I don't know if I want to do that again.
I couldn't. I mean, we see it with a lot of other gyms, and it's a monumental undertaking. And it's one of those thankless jobs that, it's so fun the day of, but afterwards you need a few weeks of just like, no one talk to me.
Decompressing.
Did you see the Monster Games are coming to?
That's
Kansas City
exciting.
next year?
Overland Park, right? The convention center.
Yeah.
We only had one person compete in it this year, and a handful of people are already talking about it.
Nice.
That was the one in Joplin, yeah.
Yep.
It was exciting though. Like it's fun to hopefully see some more local gyms come out.
I think so. 100%.
You put on an event that magnitude, in Kansas City, I think people are going to want to go.
Maybe that'll help the sport out too, or locally, the gyms in the area. I mean,
is there a box that you guys have a lot of respect for as far as how they do things? You guys keep tabs on any of their boxes here in town?
I'm 816 CrossFit. Matt Neal used to own it. He sold it, but he's still part of it. I've always respected them. They put on, we go to their competitions every year. Brave Enough, Anthony Madonna. He's in North Kansas City.
He's been a guest on this podcast.
Yeah, great location. Really old, rustic, and just gives you like
Battle of the Braves, great.
Yeah,
Great comp too.
one of the best competitions around. Those are my 2 favorite. Those are my two dudes. Yeah.
Chad, you got any to chime in on?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think that like there's a best gym. I think there's more like there's a gym for every person, meaning that CrossFit Cerberus in Blue Springs, which was the closest one to us, like the members that we have, maybe like someone leave and go to Cerberus, like that's fine. Like that gym, that vibe, whatever it is yours, and that's fine. And like what we have at CrossFit Fig is different, and that's okay. So like there's enough members that can go to Cerberus, can go to Fig, can go to Brave Enough. Like maybe
this is more of like a so best would be like a relative or subjective term. This is more of just what's a box that maybe that has your respect.
Oh,
just from how they do things. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a who do you think's the best or who do you think's better than you guys. It was more of a who do you guys look? Do you look around at the other boxes and say, hey, I really like how they do things?
I mean, in all reality, like I don't know if like I'm kind of like in my own little box, basically, like where there's not. I don't necessarily go out and like I'm not gonna go. I just don't travel too much. Like I'm not gonna go.
He's in his own bubble.
Yeah. So it's not like I don't.
Tabs
I don't know if I have an answer to that question, kind of thing. Like where it's like, okay, hey, like every CrossFit gym is good.
I like MC CrossFit.
But like I'm saying, like I'm not going to. I haven't like seen other coaches coach classes or whatever. Like so I don't know.
I'm on your team.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
So if
It's
I was like, hey, I'm going to go travel around and go.
I don't know what the shopping experience is like at other supplement stores.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, you do. That's a lie.
I think that's a lie.
That's a lie,
Secret
dude.
shopper.
You don't think that Jeff's walked into every supplement store that he possibly can. You're wrong.
But do you take ideas from like?
We went to one in Arkansas, and they messaged First Form the next day, and they're like, "We had a Jeff Wasserman and Kyle Combs in our store yesterday."
Jeff bought something with his business card. I was like, dumb, dude. What are you doing?
The guy didn't write my dude. I can swipe someone's credit card and not have any idea who their name
Yeah.
was.
So
how do they know?
Exactly.
Buff
That's
Enterprise
creepy.
2 is on the card.
Yeah, they didn't write it down.
Yeah, but
Huh?
So I think it's
you get my
slightly
point.
different.
Yeah.
I think it's different because with
Well, what you're
like we're not like competing with other gyms, and I don't know like if the supplement like that like kind of thing is like where it's like you're not competing with another restaurant of like whatever sort of like or like that kind of thing like where it's you're just kind of you want every CrossFit gym to be successful.
Yeah.
And like I don't necessarily know like which one.
It's more of like
You don't wanna
to get
have-
inspired, like you were saying. It's so sitting in a class is a big commitment comparatively to me just going in and buying a protein bar.
Yeah.
But I would say that like I, for example, do look at other supplement stores, maybe social media wise, and just see kind of how they showcase or present. But that's more of like my entrepreneurial mind versus being a coach.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm bad about that. I don't follow a bunch of gyms.
No, I'm with you. But no, I think what's cool is like I just love how you took the question itself, Chad, because you didn't take it from a, I feel like Felix and I are talking through like the business side of things and like how they represent and how they present, as well as how they showcase what they do and how do they do things on social media, so on and so forth. And you're like looking at it from a pure, I'm a technician. I want to know how they take somebody who's raw and brand new and turn them into somebody who feels competent and feels like they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And these are the things like, it just shows what you value, which is, the best thing I could possibly hear from a coach.
Right.
I also think it was great that, you don't have a scarcity mindset with things. Like that's one thing that we always talk about is like,
It's very hard to find in the fitness industry.
the obesity rate is continuing to go up. Like health in America, life expectancy is continuing to go down. So it's like, if you know that and you are, somebody whose business is fitness and business is getting people healthy, it's like there's, millions and millions and millions of new clients out there that we just haven't connected with.
Just haven't
yet.
tapped into them yet. And that's the thing is like, there's plenty of, you could have legitimately probably 2-3 other CrossFit gyms. If everyone was available to do CrossFit per se, you could fill all those gyms.
Yeah. Easily.
So I don't know.
Easily. So you're a level 3 coach. Talk about like what goes into that. So not only did you get really into coaching, followed Felix, made him hire you basically as a coach in the beginning.
Basically.
But
Sat outside his house.
bothered his
Open the door of the
free
gym.
hour that he had in the morning.
Oh my God.
But go into what all goes into becoming a level 3 coach, because it is very uncommon, I would say, to meet people that are level 3 coaches. How many are in here in Kansas City? Do you know?
I do not know. We tried to look it up actually I was with Austin at Supplement Superstore, and I was trying to figure out how many. I wonder if he can figure out how many level 3s are. There's way more. It used to be the top 10% before, or sorry, not top 10%. Top 1% was level 3s, and then obviously like as the level 3 is just a test of knowledge. So like you sit down, it's 100 and I signed an NDA, so I can't really. No, I'm just kidding. But I think it's 120 questions. It's all multiple choice, and it's just your knowledge of CrossFit. That's all it is. So
It's pretty rigorous. There's a high fail rate.
I did fail it the first time I took it, and then basically you could take it 30 days out from when you failed it. So I'm like, okay, I signed up.
Yeah, 30, coming back the next day.
30 days out. And I'm like, okay, like I'm going to study the best I know. Like I would legitimately, like I had headphones, the corded ones, back in the day, and I put them in and I would sleep with them. And I would record myself literally talking through my notes of the level 1 and level 2 handbooks. And I would sleep with it, and I would wake up and I could recite to you exactly where I was at.
That's incredible.
But that was one of those things. I'm like, I know for a fact that if I do this, they're going to have to give me new study material to pass level 3 if I don't do it this second time. So
and the level 3, just because it's a little bit more complicated than that. It's not too much more complicated.
Don't you have to get credits along with it?
You have to get your level 1, and then you have to coach a certain amount of hours to get your level 2, and then the level 2, you pass that, then you have to have a certain amount of hours
to be eligible.
To be eligible. So you can't just like take your level 3. You have to go through the process. And he did. He took, I mean, he was way over the requirement because he was full time.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing is too, like when every certification is a 5-year certification. So you take your level 1 and then you have 5 years to either get your level 2 or take your level 1 again. So the way I did it, I'm like, okay, when I took my level 1, my experience at my level 1 was like, okay, I want to be, because I just have a coach mindset. I'm like, I want to be the people that taught me how to do CrossFit or what CrossFit coaching was. Like I wanted to be a red shirt. So I'm like, okay, how do I become that? And they were like, okay, you have to have, and this was me just doing my own research. Like, hey, you have to have your level 3. At that point, they're like, everyone who's on staff has to have level 3. So I'm like, okay, how do I fast track that as fast as I could? I'm pretty sure, I think it was in maybe 3 years of starting, 3 or 4 years. Oh no. Yeah, I've had it for almost 5 years anyways. But so I literally I fast tracked that. So I got my level 1, basically as soon as I could take my level 2, I took my level 2, and then you have to have so many coaching hours. Like I said, I think it's 1,000 coaching hours, which is a lot if you weren't coaching as much as I was coaching on a daily basis. So I took that basically, and Andy was studying for it at the time. So we printed out, my mom had printed out they had every single article that was in the CrossFit database. So he had 2 massive 3-ring binders. So read every single article, highlighted every single article, read the level 1, level 2, I don't know, a dozen times. And like I knew at that point, like, okay, hey, now I'm ready to take it. So I took it, failed it. I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. And then took it again, 30 days out or 60 days out, whatever it was. And I'm like, okay, so I passed it. And then I tried to get on seminar staff basically right after. I was not the coach I am today. And I tried to do it too fast.
Yeah.
I was so excited about it. I'm like, oh, I'm gung ho. And then I sat down after the level 1. So basically what they do is the first seminar, they basically just like, you hand out PVC pipes. Mm-hmm. You're just watching. They're like, you passed it. You did great. I didn't do anything. So like you come back for the second seminar and like you'll teach one of the 9 foundational movements. So I'm like, okay. So we do this and like we started the circle. It was a deadlift and it started to rain. I'm like, oh gosh. So it started to rain. So we brought everyone inside. So like my mind's like racing, like don't know what's going on. He's like, just go in a line and like you're going to cue people, whatever. And I'm like, okay. So
you're freaking out.
Yeah,
Too new at coaching. You're freaking out over something that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, don't know what's going on. Not doing anything. Just literally walking in a line, not saying anything to anyone. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna break back out. It stopped raining, and now we're gonna do a different movement. Had no idea what I was doing, and I picked the hardest person. I'm like, oh, this person has a massive fault. So I'm like, I can pick this person, put them in the middle, and like fix them.
Yeah.
No. So
made them worse.
Yeah, but like it never got better, but I told them it got better, and they like basically afterwards we're sitting at a debrief and he's like you need to make sure you pick someone that you know can move better, because what we're supposed to be doing is supposed to be showing people that it's easy and showing that it's effortless so people want to do it.
And they'd be able to believe in themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So like that was kind of like they're like, you got to be smart about who you pick. Mm-hmm. Like kind of like read the room.
It's got to be a good example.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Of like, oh, hey, like that person fixed them, or like I did it, and it's like nothing changed.
Yeah.
Like you're not good at your job. And so I sat there and I was like, okay. So he basically like debriefed me on all this stuff. So he's like, we're gonna stop your seminar staff internship. So I just sat there like and legitimately just cried for a solid 5 to 10 minutes of just like, he's like, I'm just gonna leave you and like let you kind of like figure out like your situation. And then it was in Illinois. So it was 3.5, 4 hours drive back with actually an old member. So like that was what was even worse. It's like I couldn't even be upset because I was driving home with someone else.
Yeah.
And then, so I had my level 3 at that point. I'm like, okay, well, at that point there was really nothing else I could do, because that was the end of the level 3 was it. At that point,
they didn't have a level 4.
They did not have a level 4 at the time. They were starting to create it. They started it, and basically,
some people had their level 4s, and then they kind of went back. I was like, we're not gonna do this anymore. So some people had their level 4s, and then they weren't offering. They
I had to revamp the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were doing it while they did it, and then COVID hit. So then everything shut down, and then they just opened up the level 4 last year.
Correct me if I'm wrong. In a level 4 sounds like what you just explained. Don't they send somebody out and somebody watches you coach coach classes? For
Yes,
like
that's
a week
exactly what it is. It's
or
2 classes.
2 classes.
What he was explaining was the seminar staff, like being part of the seminar staff.
Yeah.
So you
they'll
get to
send someone
certify
out.
others.
Yeah.
So they'll send someone out and evaluate some of his classes, whether he chooses to do it at our gym or somewhere else, and they'll pick him apart or not.
Yeah.
So basically so at the time I'm like, okay, hey, I have my level 3, and then I basically just have to have continuing ed, which I found is harder to find than, like, you can only do so much continuing ed. It's like, what's the biggest bang for your buck of how many CEUs can I get to get 50 CEUs in 2 years? And now they've changed it. I think it's 30 CEUs.
Nathan just did one that was it was a 48-hour workout. Have you heard about that one in Colorado?
Yeah, it's with Brian Chantash.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Dude.
it's not butterfly. It's
Is it 48 hours or
That sounds
24?
miserable.
It's 48 hours. It's 48 hours
It's
like
something like
constant
that.
movement
Yeah.
or something like that. It's a weekend. He was like, dude, it was so
that dude. He was actually, so Brian was one of the
original staff, right?
He was actually at the seminar the original seminar I went to. So the first internship, he was there, and he was just a great human being. Like, he legitimately, like, he's like, hey, call me before you take your second internship. He spent probably 20, 30 minutes on the phone, which he did not need to spend that much time with me.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, when I failed, I didn't want to text him. And he's like, he reached out to me probably 2 weeks later. He's like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, I failed you. He's like, no, you didn't do that. And like, basically just like sent me all this like nice stuff, like just genuinely like being a great human being. And I do want to do that at some point.
He said, Nathan says that guy, as far as like mindset stuff, he's like, yeah, you're working out, but he's also giving you like, he's teaching you cues of like how to deal with like discomfort for long periods of time.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, it's super valuable.
Should go read his story if you don't know his story.
What is this story?
He, I don't want to butcher it, but basically he was overseas and he had to basically go into an enemy's trench, basically take their weapons and go through their trench, killing a bunch of people, like as he went through their trench, picking up their guns and that kind of stuff. And just like wild story. Yeah.
What war?
I probably butchered it.
In the Middle East?
I'm going to butcher it. So I don't even know. But
what was his name again? So if anybody wants
Brian,
to look
there you
it
go.
up. Oh, it's in Baghdad?
Yeah. See,
Oh, so he must be like a freaking Medal of Honor recipient?
Jesus, yeah.
but yeah, so that's his story.
Wow. No wonder he's good. He's a real
Wow.
deal.
But yeah, so that, but like you read that
For
but
our
like,
listeners,
you wouldn't-
20 enemies in one incident.
Yeah.
Wow.
but yeah, it's like you read that and you're like, that guy has to be just completely like off his rocker. He might not be the most level-headed person, but like he genuinely cares about people, cares about relationships, that kind of stuff.
He's an unbelievable leader. It
Yes,
seems like.
for sure. But so back to this whole level 3 thing and level 4. I basically was like, okay, like when can I start doing it? And then the fail rate for level 4 was basically like 99% fail rate. And the people that were successfully doing the level 4 were people that were already on staff. So that were already doing the job
Yeah.
that they needed to have their level 4. So I'm like, okay, like I can't base myself off of that. And there was like there's been 3 people that I know that like aren't on staff, and now they are on staff. So everyone that's got their level 4 is on staff. So I'm like, okay, like, and I don't even know if honestly, like now, like I want to do that job, but I still want to get the accolade of having the level 4, not because it's an accolade, but like there needs to be another step. So like there has to be something.
You got to have something
Yeah.
to shoot for.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So what it is you go to a gym, or like they can come to CrossFit Fig. It costs $3,000 if they come to the gym. I think it's $1,500 if you go to another gym. They watch a class, and then you like are off an hour, and they watch another class, and they basically give you thumbs up, thumbs down on like how good you are at coaching. And so it's supposed to be not as subjective as it sounds, like as I'm saying it. Like there's a bunch of
they have a checklist.
So it's
I guess.
so relative. Yeah.
So that's the hard part is it's like, well, what
If
is
you could get your hands on that checklist.
well, yeah, right. But like the thing is like, so all of it's out on the internet. Like you can see the checklist of like what it is, but it's like, it's still hard to like base it on like,
Think
it's like,
about all that while
it's like,
you're
hey, you got to
coaching.
fix every major fault.
It's like being a quarterback in
then
the
like-
NFL. Like, all right, read the defense, know the play, execute. Right, easy enough.
Yeah, it's just a lot.
There's a saying that we use all the time here that I feel like would be very similar to this situation, and that is people can hit the notes, but they might not know how to play the music. And so it's like you might check every box, but if you're not doing it with the with the delivery that it needs to be delivered in to make
Absolutely.
impact emotionally and to really create belief in the people, you can check all those boxes and it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
for sure.
So I think that
Absolutely.
I love that there's still a piece of it that has to be a little bit of relative.
And I think that's where
Yep.
that's where like Felix has grown on me a little bit, where being good at seeing and correcting and all this stuff, right, is great. But if you can't create a connection with a person, or you can't create a space that they feel they can have fun, but also still get the coaching that like they're paying for
Yeah, that was
to an extent.
his biggest struggle in the beginning was he just was too much of a technician. People were coming in and it was like, we're lining up here, we're talking about the workout, we're squatting, and he's fixing every single person, but he's not having fun while he was doing it. And it took a while to get that through his
It
thick
took
little
a
skull.
really,
What do
it
you-
took a really
let
long
me
time.
ask you- let me ask you this.
Just from talking with you, Chad, I'm like, it makes sense, dude. You're in a spot where it's like, it's like, why would everybody not want to get perfect at this?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, dude, let me ask you this, because every gym I've ever been into has these guys in it. And these guys are the guys that have been doing things their way for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it looks.
Yeah.
What do you do with them?
You find, so it's not the first day you meet them maybe, but you find something that you know you can correct and they're going to see an easy result from it. So meaning you buy your time, and then let's say it's handstand push-ups and you're like, I know for a fact I can tell them this one thing and it's going to fix their handstand push-ups. You tell them that, and guess what? Like, you have them forever. But it's a matter of like, if you tell them something, you're like, well, like that's just, it's not really going to make me better. Like, let's say it's deadlifting and I'm like, hey, like you need to set your back better. Like, well, like I'm pulling 400 pounds off the ground.
Yeah.
Like, you still need to set your back, but like they're not thinking that's good because they've been doing it forever. But something you can get them with, like, okay, hey, on your handstand push-ups, if you kick away from the wall instead of kicking straight up and hitting the wall, it's like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And then everything you say after that is gold.
Yeah.
But you can't, and as I've learned, you can't do it necessarily right away.
Yeah.
You got to find the right space to do it,
The
because
ego,
then you can
man.
have them.
The ego
Yeah.
gets in there with some people, and
Yeah.
they're closed off to listening unless you give them like a couple
you
of
can-
attaboys for.
Yeah, you can shut them down really fast though too.
Chad's really black and white. And I always say this.
yeah,
He's very
very.
black and white. So his approach, he's found what works for him, but he'll have a checklist, like, right. And this is the beauty of we have 3 coaches. We're all so different. But you would ask me, I would be like, I'm just going to get to know them and I'm going to be buddies with them. And then I'll
sprinkle in some.
then I'm
yeah.
going to give him some compliments. Like, man, you can squat real heavy. And then, how long have you been doing this? And the next thing I know, I'm like, by the way, if you want to get stronger, maybe push your knees out a little bit during that squat to give you better leverage. But the supplement Superstore guys love him. They're like, he fixed this, he fixed that. So he fixes it. He's got a process though. It's
Yeah.
black and white. It's like, I'm going to go down these checklists. And
The phrase we use is like, people don't care what you know until they know you care.
yeah,
For sure. Absolutely.
And so like Chad, I feel like you have like all of the tools needed to fix anybody, but they just need to know that it's coming from a place of genuine care,
Yeah.
Versus listen to how smart I am. Or
Yeah, and
like,
that's
listen to how right I am is another classic. And then people come into our store, right? And we might have the most in shape dude working behind the counter, and he stands up and maybe comes across as intimidating or something like that. But there might be the nicest person in the world, but it doesn't matter. Like, if we have the most in shape person and he's like, hey man, you should take this protein, they don't care what he said. They need to know that guy is really invested in seeing them get better first.
Yeah.
And I think that's the learned skill, is that where I loved CrossFit so much, and I love the coaching aspect of it, that's what I wanted to be so good at being young in my coaching career. But now it's where it's like, okay, hey, like, how do you keep people here longer, but how do you keep people also happy with doing the day-to-day, but still being able to sprinkle in, like, I could tell you every single person in a room that's doing something wrong that doesn't necessarily need to be fixed.
Yeah. Sure.
Like today, like it might not be today. So let's say like you come in and you're having a bad day and I can see it on your face. Guess what I'm not doing?
Yeah.
I'm not coaching you to the extent I would if you were having a really, really good day.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can see that now. Mm-hmm. I used to not be able to see that, where it's just like, okay, hey, like, don't care if you're having a bad day, like your squat sucks.
Right.
Like you need to fix it. You need to fix it today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just not the case. Like
I'm here to coach you. I'm not moving on until you fix this.
Yes, exactly. And that's where like Felix has probably worn off on me more than anyone else, where it's like, you have to be able to,
some discretion there.
Yes. Like you can still be good at your job and not be.
It was more about reading people. He wasn't very good at that. He, black and white, and he's tremendous at it now, but he would see somebody, he didn't look at their body language. He didn't see if they're, he would just like, all right, you got to squat lower, or, you know, you do this. And he was coaching, doing a good job coaching, but they would just shut down.
But as a technician, you kill it, because that's like I said, the pros and cons of everything,
Yeah.
right? It's like, you know, I think everything's kind of on a spectrum, right? And it's like, hey, if you're going to be all the way over here, it's like, you know, 10 out of 10 as far as being able to coach on technicality. And so you just had to learn more of a swing, you know, the other direction, which is like being a total, you know, street smart people person.
Yeah.
And learning how to handle that, you know. But that's it's just a situation where now it's like, it seems like you're just a jack of all trades, where it's like you got everything going for you at once now.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too that I wouldn't consider myself ever really there per se, and maybe that's just my own
sure.
Like where it's like there's still stuff that like Felix will bring up, or Jess or other coach will bring up, be like, hey, like this can be better. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. And
you're always seeking improvement. You mentioned the level 4 earlier. It's like, hey, it's not about anything besides, it's not the accolade. It's constant seeking, you know, constantly seeking improvement in what you're doing.
And that's kind of like where Felix come in, like where like he used to be like, hey, like I'm going to beat around the bush and like kind of like tell you like, hey, like do this. And like now it's like we can have a tough conversation about whatever it is, even not even coaching, but just in the gym. Like, hey, it's black and white. Like it's going to suck to hear. But in all reality, it's like, I'm going to be mad at Felix for 5 minutes and be like, okay, hey.
I think you're a product of your generation.
Yeah.
Because I was too, right? We in the beginning, it'd like Chad.
We're the same generation.
And Chad was shut down. And, you know, then I learned to, you know, maybe not be so forward, and he learned to take a little bit of criticism. And now we're to the point where I'm back to being forward and he's taking it. Like, hey, this needs to change.
It's just, yeah.
Honesty is the nicest thing you can do for somebody, even if the honesty is like rough to hear. You know?
Yeah.
Because if not, then, you know, he continues to do something that is hindering his growth, you know, and he doesn't know about it because you haven't been honest with him.
Well, the other thing is too, that I always tell Felix is, it's as much as I want to do what I want to do as a coach and as a class, it's not my gym. Genuinely. Like Felix owns it. So like if Felix like, hey, like I want you to literally just stand in the corner and just watch people.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that like the thing of like that, if that's what he wanted me to do, then like that's what he's paying me for.
I think that's part of me trying to make us be unified. So I'll have my things that I want done, but we always talk about it. I've been not in business for 13 years because I did it my way.
Yeah, you're not dictating.
We've been in business for 13 years because I listened to the members, I listened to the coaches, and I take the feedback, and then I think about it and I say, is this going to work? I mean, I get all the time. I get feedback from clients all the time. We should do this. We should do that. Sometimes like we've tried that, didn't work. Right. Or sometimes I'm like, you know, I'll parking lot that. I'll keep that in consideration. And, we've evolved because of that. And so with when we first did CrossFit, it was the wild, wild west. We're like, all right, we're doing power cleans and we're doing this WOD. And this is how you do everything. Go. You'll have 10 minutes to lift and we'll start the WOD. Now we meet, and this is all through advice from, you know, Chad and Jessica and some from Andy. Let's have a whiteboard briefing so everyone's on the same page. All right, I think that's a good idea. So we did that. Let's do a class warm up, because we used to like do a warm up before a class, and then we'll just start lifting right away. No one's doing that. So let's have a warm up during class. And I was like, well, yeah, but that's less time we can lift and do the WOD. I was like, yeah, but it's safer. Yeah. I'm like, good point. All right. So we took feedback.
Mobility is kind of important in CrossFit.
Yeah, the warming up is extremely important. I had
it's all just been an evolution, it sounds like.
An evolution, absolutely.
And do you guys do you do the programming, or do you guys do you outsource programming?
No, so I've been programming since the beginning.
Yeah.
And then we went and tried the CAP programming. Our members hated it, the coaches hated it. It's good, but we were used to something else. And then we tried Mayhem programming, which we learned a lot from it. And then we went back to our own programming. And then just recently, within a year, what we do is I program the workouts 2 weeks out, and then they test it.
Yeah.
And then we meet about it, and then we tweak. All right, might have been a little bit too heavy on the shoulders after we did this, or my hamstrings are a little tight because blah, blah, blah. And then we tweak.
Yeah.
And then we put it out to the community.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an added fun. You ever thought about outsourcing that programming since you guys invest so much into it?
I mean, it's a possibility. That's not my strong suit. I'd have to, the programming is, but everything else, like as far as outsourcing it and
packaging it and all that.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's not my strong suit. I would love to, because I feel like we find a balance in the strength programming. We program out like 17 weeks, and it looks random, but it's not. And then making it to where you're going to get in shape, but you're also having fun. That
was the thing about Mayhem programming, because I did Mayhem.
Yeah.
A lot of it wasn't fun.
No.
It was a lot of built-in rest and a lot of like getting you better at CrossFit.
It works. But it might not be the most fun thing ever.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to pump out the
out.
best athletes in the world, though. I'm trying to make sure you get in shape,
people come back,
make sure you're well-rounded, make sure you're not hurt. And then really the biggest thing is you're having fun, because I work out. I do the programming. If I'm not having fun, we do rope climbs. We mix it up, and we try not to make it repetitive. Like, oh God, we're doing kettlebell swings again. This is a third time in 2 weeks. So the fun is what we try to bring to the table. And that doesn't necessarily bring the best athletes out as far as a high level CrossFit Games athletes, but we pump out good athletes.
Yeah.
Like local athletes.
Yeah.
Chad, I was going to ask you this. You were around it. You said CrossFit Fringe back in like 14. I would say that, and you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, it's just that Fringe had a lot of competitors there. I want to say Brooke Wells was there during that time, wasn't she?
Yes, I believe she was. The thing is and kind of why Felix, I think, has the community aspect figured out, is that it was very sectioned off. So like she would probably, and I don't know this to be true, but she was never there when I was there. So like if I would come in the morning at 5 a.m. and I'd come back at 3 because I had nothing better to do in college. I had no friends. I was like, all my friends were home, and I'm like, okay, like what am I doing? I'm just going to go back to the gym. She was never there. So there was definitely like a segment of group of like, oh, hey, these athletes are doing extra stuff to be competitive in CrossFit. But there was also a group class. So it was this weird like conundrum of how like, oh, am I a special athlete today, or am I just in the group class? And I think that's where Felix has been since day one he started, at least CrossFit, where it's been, we're just doing the community fitness of the gym. There's not going to be, like, don't get me wrong, like we've had teams go to competitions, like he said, like he went to Wadapalooza, but like it's not like, hey, you guys can train now off hours.
Oh yeah, he mentioned the 3 women, the 3 female elite athletes.
So I think that's why
that hard decision.
That's why it's been successful, and like there hasn't been this weird split of people like, oh well, like I only pay for this, or I need to pay extra to do this, or whatever it might be.
But to mitigate that, because we do have people that want more, but I don't want to divide the community just because you want to be a better athlete. So you want to be a competitive athlete, say follow our programming, because one, I believe in it. I think it's well-rounded. I know it's well-rounded. I know it's going to make you a better athlete. But doing one workout a day probably won't get you to the competition shape. Once you do our programming, the gym is yours. Do whatever you want. Be respectful to the coaches and the members and the equipment, but do whatever you want. You have to do our programming first. If you show up at 5 a.m, you want to stay at the gym the rest of the day, while we're open, you can do that. So that kind of mitigates.
Take our
it.
class, and then it's up to you from
Do
there.
you have people
like
that
that,
like
man.
beef up the weights that are associated with the workouts, or like increase the, like if it's chest to bars, they do muscle ups or something like that?
Only when we offer the option.
Yeah.
Because we have a
Stimulus, you're going to have to,
right?
yeah.
And we know our athletes really well.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't even offer it as an option, but hey, you can bump this up a little bit, or you can try and do bar muscle ups, or you can do GHDs instead of ab mat sit ups.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely some big gaps, especially in strength when you see in like certain workouts, especially like lifts like deadlifts, or where something might be programmed at 225, but somebody could do it at 315, and stay within the stimulus.
Yeah. So we definitely have room for that.
Yeah.
Just depends on the day and the athlete, but we're so in tune with our athletes that we can do that on an individual basis per class.
That's cool that you guys, that's a focus of you guys, is to keep everybody, together and basically working on the same workouts, because I think that do you guys write your scores up on the boards, or?
Well, we have the Beyond the Whiteboard app,
do you have
and it's tremendous. It's like a social media for CrossFit for within our own gym. So there's a leaderboard, both RX and then intermediate or scaled. And then, you can just choose to log private or be part of that leaderboard, but people comment. And
I was about to say that just having like the, one or two people that that you kind of see in the same spot as you all the time, that you're kind of gunning for, I think that's really beneficial too. So you kind of have that in the back of your head, like,
and it's
screw my form.
Healthy.
I'm just going to go. No, I'm just kidding.
That does happen. That does happen.
It does. Well, this person did, 185 cleans. I'm going to do that. It's like, they're a different athlete. How about you stick to what we're supposed to do? You get that sometimes. But again, we're not absentee coaches. We're there. We're watching. We'll see before the WOD starts. Like, why do you got 185 pounds on the bar? Well, I saw this person do it. And I think that's what separates us, because I'm not knocking any other CrossFit gyms, because I love them all. We have 3 full-time coaches, and this is our passion. And when I say full-time, that's all we do. Jessica, all she is a CrossFit coach. Chad, he's a full-time CrossFit coach. I own the gym. I'm a CrossFit coach. So it's our passion, and we care, and we don't have anything else to think about. We're not like, my boss at work today was a jerk. I think I might get fired. And then I'm coaching. Yeah. And I'm like, we bring the energy every day, because we can.
That's my brother-in-law.
It creates an awesome experience.
It does.
He sells medical devices during the day, and then he coaches at night for a free membership.
Yeah.
That's pretty typical. And I'm not knocking that, we're not wildly profitable. Yeah.
Different kind of gym.
Well, the other thing is too, like, that's kind of where me having a full-time job doing this is not a normal gig, because most of the time it's that where you have 6 part-time coaches and like, oh, well, we'll just comp their membership and they can coach classes. And then it's
it's not centered.
Yeah. But the hard part is, like, I can't say that because I've never experienced it. Mm-hmm. So we've never really had a bunch of part-time coaches, genuinely. So like me being like, oh, hey, like, that doesn't work, I can't say that because I've never experienced it. Right. So like, that's the other thing too, is like where my experience is just, hey, like, you shadow and then you become full-time.
I would assume it's like anything else, though. It's like, if you have somebody that's the only thing that they're focused on, they're going to be better at it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So, Felix brought up the greatest point, where it's just like, hey, like, life's just going to hand you something. It's very difficult to be able to keep keep your personal life outside of work if you have a whole different experience before you hit to the gym, especially if you're an evening class person, coach, an evening coach. It's just, you can't help but have that day kind of dictate some of your stress, or kind of where you're at as far as your mood goes heading into that class. And so it's very difficult to drop it at the door, which is easier said than done, is all.
And some people are better at it than others. And that's part of the reason coaching is hard, is not being a level 3 and knowing everything. It's the emotional aspect that no one really understands. And Chad knows, anyone who's coached more than 3 classes in a row, there's 3 hours. So what? But you're exhausted.
Oh yeah.
You're just, because you're pouring out, and you're like, you're trying, even if you're in a bad mood, you're tired. I've been dead ass tired in classes, and people are like, oh, you have so much energy. It's like, yeah, no, I'm tired. I'm faking it so you can have a good experience. Yeah. And that's
a must if you're going to coach for a long time.
Yeah.
I got to ask you guys, do you have a Concept 2 bike in your gym?
We have 3 of them. 3.
Yeah.
Are you spending just
we call them bikers,
ridiculous amount of time on it? Yeah.
It's amazing.
No, I'm not.
Are you like trying to hit that thing in between classes or what?
No.
For the listeners, Chad is about to do a full triathlon, a full Ironman triathlon, which is insane. And I
heard on very little training.
He's been training hard. It's coming up quick.
He said he wasn't
Traditional Ironman programming.
Well, he said
yes, no. So like that's the big thing. And I actually talked to Freddie about it. I'm like, hey, like, he's like, you're not following the program. I'm like, no, I'm just going to try it, you know? Thankfully I have enough people in my corner that know specific things. Like, so like one of our members who comes in the winter owns a bike stop in Blue Springs and in Lee Summit. So he's like, hey, like any day you have free, like couple hours, right? Like text me and like, if I can get out, I'll go bike with you. So like having him be the person that I can bike with. And there's a couple old high school swimmers that like go to the gym, like, hey, like I'll come swim with you. And just kind of take you under my wing for this specific thing. And then I've had a really good relationship with Chris Henshaw that does aerobic capacity. He's pretty big in the CrossFit space.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you meet him through, was he on the seminar staff or how'd you meet him?
No, that was through actually continuing ed. And it was Power Monkey.
Yeah.
So he was one of the group leads of, so there's like, it's basically, I've never been to band camp, but my adage to it is, it's like band camp for fitness geeks. So basically you go to, it's a week-long camp and you stay in literal log cabins. You spend 4 or 5 hours learning an in-depth skill from someone that's like Chad Vaughn, who is an Olympic weightlifter who's done like a bunch of age group stuff, that kind of stuff. And it's like amazing Olympic lifter. Dave Durante, who I don't know if he went to the Olympics, but went through, like went to college, all that stuff, you know, through
people that are extremely high level at what they do.
Yes. So like learn from him. And then he was one of those people that was there. And I asked him afterwards, I'm like, hey, like this is back to like, kind of like, I want to be on the other side of what I'm doing. So I went up to him like, hey, like, how do I get on the other side of this? And he's like, well, I got some books you can read. So he sent me 27 books. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go find these at the Mid-Continent Public Library, whatever. And I'm like, we went there, didn't find a single one. So I'm like, where are these books at? So I order a couple and I read through, like, it's just the most boring running books I've ever read in my life. I'm like, this sucks. So then I went up to an aerobic capacity course and it was recent enough that he knew who I was. So I just continued to bombard him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the next week was the CrossFit Games, and I happened to be going up there that week as well. So,
by the way, he's one of the coaches of all the top CrossFit athletes when it comes to their endurance training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Matt Frazier, Adler, you know.
Froning. That was his big claim to fame, was Froning. But anyway, so I sent him this long email about like some workouts that he was doing. I went on behind the whiteboard, found all the movements, and I basically made a workout for each movement. And I sent it to him, and I walked up to him and I'm like, hey, like, how you doing, Chris? Whatever. And he's like, I'm like, hey, did you get, he didn't respond. He didn't respond to the email. And I'm like, hey, did you get me? I was like, yeah, it looks great. And I'm like,
would have been nice to know.
Yeah. Like would have been cool. Like you respond to like email, whatever, you know? And, basically I sent him like, okay, I'm going to try one more time to reach out and just see. So I reached out and then he emailed me back finally and he put his cell phone number at the bottom of it. I'm like, okay. So like, I'm just going to send him a message. But I come to find out, like, he's like, a lot of people reach out to me and just want the claim to fame. Like, oh, hey, I work with Chris Henshaw, or I've done something with Chris Henshaw. He's like, but I wanted to know that you were actually doing it for the right reasons. So by being somewhat annoying, I would say, is what caused me to have a great relationship with him now.
Authentically wanting what you said you wanted.
Which last year you guys did a seminar at your gym with him, correct?
It was, it had to be a couple years ago.
Yeah. It was our old location, but yeah, we had one there.
But so that's one of those things, like that would have never happened.
Yeah.
If I wouldn't have just been, because he's like, I have 500 applicants every single year to host these things. He's like, I won't do them because I know certain people and I'll only do them at certain gyms.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of thing.
I think it's just cool. You're authentically trying to seek
knowledge.
your own knowledge, but personal potential, the potential of what you're able to do. And as a coach, I think you respect those athletes the most. Those are the ones that are the most fun to coach because they are in it for the right reasons versus so they can tell all their friends that they coach with that person. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool that he found that with you.
Yeah. And I think that's like one of those. So he's kind of in my corner, like with the running. So I have like all three pieces of the Ironman stuff kind of figured out, I guess.
You got people you can count on in each one of them.
So I haven't spent that much time on the biker, to go back to your question. I try to find on Tuesdays, I'll go bike for 3 hours, 2 hours. I have this little loop around Lee Seminary. It's 32 miles. It takes me hour 50, 2 hours, something like that. And it's just like, for me, it's just a matter of like being in the saddle of a bike, being on your feet running, like just being in the water. Mm-hmm. Like as much as it's like you can create all this stuff of like, hey, this is super intricate, whatever it is, or you can just go do the things. Now, granted, I don't believe in like, hey, like let's make this the most monotonous workout if I'm giving it to you. But if I'm doing it, I'm okay being monotonous. Mm-hmm. I can just go do the work and not worry about it. Because that's just how I operate. Not everyone necessarily operates that way. So for me, I'm like, okay, like I got to go, I'm going to get 30 miles in this week of running. Well, I don't care how I necessarily split it up. I might run 5 miles, 5 miles, 5 miles. Uh-oh. Now I have 15 miles to run.
Well, I'll go do 15.
Guess what? I got to run 15 miles. Mm-hmm. But it's not something that's like aimless.
Sure.
Because I've been doing it I've been in the fitness space now for 9 years, and like beyond that, right? Kind of like growing up in it. So I have the knowledge to not do anything stupid. And that's kind of like, to your point, like it seems like it's aimless and like kind of like, oh, I'm just like shot in the dark.
Yeah, winging it from the hip.
I say that, but it's relatively calculated.
Yeah.
I just say that because I don't have a plan I'm looking at. And like, hey,
maybe not in a
I got to swim,
traditional
bike,
sense.
run. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're not a traditional plan.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm excited. When is it?
Because that's the thing.
It's a month, right?
September 29th. So
Oh,
this
man.
month.
Just a
Day
couple
after my
weeks.
wedding, dude.
Yeah.
2.5 weeks.
The older I get, the more I enjoy monotonous workouts.
Ugh.
Yeah, dude. Get out
Like
of here.
long, just,
No.
I
I like stretching more.
His
biker,
birthday
the
workout
older I
last
get.
year was the worst, dude.
The workout?
His workout for his birthday last
It's
year
all
was
good.
36
It's all good.
of
all
everything,
good.
you know?
You guys ever do any of that stuff? Any stupid workouts that make zero sense at all? Just
was over
to
an
run?
hour.
We try not to.
Yeah.
100 degrees.
They all have to make sense.
100 plus
I've done-
degrees that day. It was over an hour. It was just...
Yeah, my
His birthday's
birthday's
in
July
end of July.
29th, so
Yeah,
it's always
perfect.
very
Hey,
hot.
speaking of monotonous, have you guys heard of the Chad workout?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did it.
You
It was
did it?
awful. Yeah, I got last.
Everyone gets
It was
last
a,
in
it
that
was a
workout.
thousand box jump? Or
Yeah.
No, it's
1,000 box step ups?
Well, I'd like to invite you guys
Weighted?
to come do it. What's September? What? Try to look it up.
Veterans Day, right?
It's the Saturday. We're doing it on a Saturday. I think
Let me
it's
find
the
it.
the Saturday before Veterans Day. Isn't
what
Veterans Day
Justin's
on a
gonna be
Monday, right?
I mean, I'm in. I'll
It's
definitely
gonna-
beat my
I'll have
time
to
from last year.
check my calendar with my wife.
We
but
you
you know
it was-
how that is.
Hey,
I
this,
do.
This
You
is
know
a
how that
classic workout where it's like the people that are doing it are, there's definitely some skepticism in the room on who's keeping track.
November 9th.
Right.
Oh, it's
November 9th.
November?
Because I really
Okay.
did it,
My bad.
and I was really down by
November
like,
9th. At least that's what's
Yeah,
on the
you're like, how did you beat
I
me?
really did it, and I was like, "There's a dude." I'm like, I for sure know I'm in better shape than that guy, and
That's
he
the
like
worst
finished
feeling.
20 minutes before me.
How
You're like,
how long did it take you?
Who's count? I mean, I don't remember. It was a long time.
Yeah. Did you weighted?
Yeah.
An
It was like-
hour?
I think it was like, I mean, I think most people were getting done in like 30,
No.
40 maybe.
I feel
or
like it's an
something.
hour workout,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it just took me forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how it felt. Like I was at least 10 minutes past everybody else, but I had no extended wait time. I had no extended breather.
Yeah.
That's why I was so frustrating. I got water twice in the whole workout.
Math is hard.
And
Well,
I
if you-
never slowed down. I just kept going.
You'd have to hold a pace of basically 17 step ups a minute to do it in an hour. You think you were doing more than 17 in a minute?
I think it's probably right there,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
But then if somebody was getting done in 30 minutes,
No.
that is legitimately 30
But
box step
you
ups
were
a
there,
minute.
right? Dude,
I wasn't there.
You weren't there for that one?
No, I wasn't there
Okay.
for that
So
one.
there was, I mean, bro, there was people
I
leaving.
mean, maybe an elite athlete, but not just
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
average dude doing
There's a
box
dude who's
did
no longer with
Chad
our
in
company.
the games this year.
There's a
So
dude who's no longer
figure
with
it
our
out.
company anymore that did it. And we were all like, we know that dude lied. Like,
Yeah.
We know this
He was
dude.
counting by if you're lying in CrossFit,
Yeah.
then you're lying everywhere
Yeah,
else.
man. Way to pay your tribute to the veterans,
Right.
dude.
Oh.
They know. They know what you
know.
did.
I mean, do it in 30 minutes and just be like, guys, I stopped at 500, or something. I mean, you don't have to do the full 1,000.
The hardest thing to count in CrossFit's double unders, because when you get lost, you're just kind of screwed. You don't have like a board.
You're
just
starting
like,
over.
I think I'm at 35. I don't know.
Dude, I'm going to ask you guys a fun question for CrossFitters. All right, you got the, what do you call them? Like the filthy 50. That's another one.
Yeah.
All the different
hero wads.
Just the different ladies out there.
Yeah.
Just classic
Girl workouts.
CrossFit workouts. Not just heroes. There's just random. Just also classic benchmark maybe workouts. Give me your Mount Rushmore of your favorite 4 CrossFit workouts. If you only had 4 you could do, what are they going to be?
I like Elizabeth. That's power cleans and ring dips.
Oh man.
Right? 21, 15, 9. And I had to test that out for Wadapalooza. And
You can go find that video too.
And I put it on YouTube because Wadapalooza needed proof, and I put it on YouTube, and the comments are great.
Yeah.
Because I admittedly I'm going really fast, and some of my reps, my elbows are here. Some of them I'm finishing, and then on my ring dips, I'm doing the best. I'm crushing it, and maybe one rep was here. Maybe they're all pretty legit. Maybe a
Ring
couple
dips
questions.
are not a good movement to have.
Speed
for
was the
competition.
was the goal at the time.
Yeah, and my time was blazing fast, and so but the comments on there like and I read them, and I don't offend me. I just love it.
It was
Being
probably
finicky.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
It might have been sub 2 minutes. 21:59, right?
Yeah,
No. I bet it was 3 minutes.
no, under 3 minutes.
Wow,
It was super fast.
That's cruising.
Yeah, but
Ring
unbroken
dips are
ring
hard
dips,
to judge.
Yeah, they are
because
hard
of
to
that.
judge, and yeah.
The other names that come to mind for you?
Fran, just because even though
Got you in
that
the
one's
sport.
hard, yeah, got me in the sport. I took it at my level 1. I'm actually pretty good at it. And then Chad, you go while I think.
I would say Amanda. It's 975. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
muscle ups first, and then squat snatches at 135.
That's a cool.
That was like one of those ones that, like, to check the box of both of those things are pretty big.
High skill moves.
Maybe not now because of where the sport's gone and like just how fit people come into a gym. But like when I started, I'm like, oh, I want to be able to do that many muscle ups and I want to be able to squat snatch 135 that many times. Well, it took me, I did it modified for 3 times and then I finally did RX. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like I'm done doing that workout. But that's one of those ones that's like, I have a kind of like the Fran thing. You have a memory of it. So it's like, that's a really cool
It was a true like make it moment
workout.
for you.
Yes, exactly. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I've arrived
Totally.
per se
Totally.
in my fitness career.
Oh,
That's,
dude, yeah,
that's about it.
You officially belonged with the tops of the top. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's a cool story.
There's one that's not a girl workout, and I never did, but I was upset that I didn't do it. It was called King Kong.
dude. I literally was just thinking that one.
Oh, and
King Kong's a cool workout.
I had a point where it at my peak where like that wouldn't have been a problem.
yeah.
And now looking at it, I'm like, oh, everything's gonna blow.
I
up,
honestly
and
think the hardest part of it now for me would be the deadlift because it opens with a 495 deadlift for one.
455,
Or is it 455? Okay.
Yeah.
I might be able to do it.
Still heavy.
and then the squat clean at 255.
Yeah. No, it's two muscle ups, then 3 squat cleans, right? At 255.
Yeah, at 255.
And then 4 handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 3
Just
rounds.
throw those in there.
3
for
rounds.
3 rounds.
Yeah.
That was the last workout I did before I moved to Kansas
So you did
City.
that one?
Yeah. Yeah. It's on my Instagram.
I regret because
somewhere, but-
at the time, all it was really the deadlift, getting your deadlift left up to like 500 pounds,
yeah.
and then being able to do 455, 3 times. And the squat clean, yeah, it's challenging, but that's not the hard part. It's the deadlift.
At
That's for
that
me.
point
I got a
in
video.
my CrossFit career, it was the muscle ups. I was kind of in the
yeah.
phase of muscle ups where I didn't have very good I still don't have very good overhead mobility. I didn't have very good overhead mobility at the time. Still,
Is this King Kong?
yeah,
Oh, bro, this is CrossFit 314, St. Louis.
yeah, 314.
This is when you're still like 240.
2 muscle ups.
Oh, this is you. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Bro, I have a video of Kyle
coach me, Chad. What is
six.
Oh, those are no reps, unfortunately.
Squatting 675.
You got to lock your arms at the bottom or they don't count.
His arms are probably
But
locked.
you're huge. You're
that was
doing-
all I had.
Go like that. Yeah.
You're
Always got
going-
luck at it. Here you go.
I got better mobility now, but at that time it was so bad.
That's got to be funny to watch now for you, Kyle, because you were actually CrossFitting for quite a bit of time at this point. But you got
Not really.
when you came here.
I was
not
probably-
you were
They
going
got
every
beers in
day
there.
for a year.
I was probably into CrossFit a year at this point. I don't know.
5:30. I'll text you.
I just want to see if there's any other names that come to mind for you guys. We got Fran, we got Elizabeth, we got Amanda, we got King Kong.
I don't want to admit this, but Karen was
150 wall balls for time.
150 wall balls for time.
Terrible.
And I would make some of my on ramps do Karen.
Ooh,
And some of them are still with us.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking.
Their
I was like,
legs
all right.
just blown out the next day.
And that doesn't teach them anything. I don't know what I was thinking. I was like, it doesn't.
It's
I
the
mean,
old
I did
adage,
the
like, let's
foundational
just make them
movements.
really wreck them on the first day.
Let me
type
show
of
you the
deal.
power of CrossFit. It makes you miserable, but you'll be so pumped that you are. And yeah, that didn't last very long because like you don't want to sign up. Why not? You just did 150 wall
Sore
balls.
for the whole week.
No one's mentioned any with burpees in it. Weird.
Quad.
I've done 1,000
I gotta
burpees.
see.
That was not
Can you
fun.
pull up the girls? I want to see because
Quad
I'll
burner.
tell you. I just got to visualize it.
Sure.
They had a new one. I think it was Mary with pistol squats. That was fun.
Pistol
Yuck.
squats now make my knees hurt looking at them.
Yeah. No, they're not great for the knees. Helen's
Oh, that's
fine.
a really good one.
Nancy's gross. I mean, there's Elizabeth. Oh,
Grace.
where's
Older
Grace?
I get-
Where's Grace? Oh, I like Grace. Oh yeah, duh. Grace and Isabel. Those
Yeah.
are my other two.
I was about to
favorites.
say the older I get though, the less I like doing
No,
Grace and
yeah.
Isabel because they hurt.
Grace and
At a
Isabel.
certain point, you don't have to actually do those workouts anymore.
because
Yeah.
everyone comes out hot in those, and they try to go unbroken for the first like 15, and then they can't move. So that was like a strategy one, but those are good. I like the sprints. Anything under 5 minutes that's possible, I enjoy.
Oh, that
Double
scroll
Grace.
back up a little bit for me, Luke. Just right there. That Ingrid one, hadn't seen that before. That looks gross. Just
Yeah,
for 10,
they
10
have
rounds
just
of
come out
anything.
with-
10 rounds of anything.
Oh,
I think
right.
they came out with like 8 or 9 new girl workouts.
Yeah.
Let's spice it up.
recently.
Hard Cindy. I like that.
Special Mary.
Heavy Fran. We got one question we ask all of our guests.
All right.
And you guys are.
We gotta get
Kansas-
Chad to class.
We got to get Chad to
Yeah,
coach.
exactly.
and
This
my
is-
football. I coach flag football. I'm gonna. Yeah, my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I was like,
Appreciate
I'm still
you
on the
guys being
podcast.
able to
We're
do this.
still
I love
here.
it.
Yeah.
This is an easy one though.
Okay.
All right, we're barbecue town, barbecue city. You got people coming to town to stay. Where do you take them
For barbecue?
Number one spot.
I've recently tried Slaps and Chef J's.
Man,
Whole nother level. Both of those.
you tried some epic spots.
Well, 'cause,
Slaps
like
is so-
you know, you got your traditional everyone always talks about, but those are these new places. They're Slaps and Chef J's.
No disrespect to Gates and to Arthur Bryant's, but
Yeah.
they don't hold a candle to some of these.
They
new
don't.
spots.
Not to the new spot. You know, if you nostalgic, you can't beat the nostalgia of some of those places.
Well,
but,
sometimes nostalgic like makes it hard because you're like, you just say it's good because it's,
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
yeah. But
oh, well, it's good. Like, well, is it really good?
what about you, Chad?
I would probably say either legitimate, like just like I haven't gone to like a ton of different barbecue spots, but like Jack Stack is always good.
Amazing.
And then Oklahoma Joe's,
Yeah.
like those two places.
Casey Joe's.
Yeah, we're
It's
talking
Oklahoma
experience
Joe's.
versus
It's not-
flavor. Totally different experience going to a
Dumb.
Gates or an Arthur Bryant's. But,
Yeah.
but flavor, no, man. You got to go to. We hear a lot of Q39 on here.
Yeah.
I haven't been yet.
But Chef J, we've had recently. Who was it that recently was talking about Chef J at length?
I don't know.
Can't remember what guest it was, but I'm like, I've had it as well, and man, holy hell, they actually have it at Arrowhead now. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
There's a Chef J,
Didn't he
stand.
get it?
and at the not the sporting park.
Oh,
they
the
might have
Casey
that.
Current?
The Casey Current Park. They have it there too.
Heck yeah, man, good for him. Yeah, he's a good dude. Cool.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Hey,
dudes, thank
we-
you guys
we
for
really
coming
appreciate
on,
your guys'
man.
time.
Really appreciate you guys coming on.
It. Thank you so much for having us
great.
on. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks
Go
for
check
inviting
out
us
Fig.
out.
Hey, tell them where the people can find you guys.
Yeah. CrossFitFig.com is the easiest. Our social media at CrossFit Fig on Instagram.
Makes it easy.
Yeah. There we are. We just crossed the threshold of 1,500 followers. So, I mean,
Congrats.
I would really like to be higher if you guys can help us out.
Give them a follow.
Give us a follow right there at CrossFit_Fig. And then, yeah, I'd like to see you guys out if you can for a team workout. And you can do it during class. We have a big enough facility to hold 1,000 people. Or we can set up a special class for you guys. And then also that chat event.
Consider it done, my friend.
Do it.
Love it.
Cool.
When we
Thank you,
got
guys.
here, we sent whatever location Felix went to. We went to Central Bank downtown on the plaza, and we go upstairs.
You guys went inside of a
Yeah.
building?
Yeah.
We're like,
we
I
went
thought it
inside.
was the back of a supplement superstore, and we go in up the elevator, and we're like, yeah, we're here for the podcast. Like, this is a bank. Like,
He's like-
well, they said they're in suite 2 something. The guy calls someone up and says, yeah,
Felix
Felix
is
and
here.
Chad are here for a podcast. Okay, bye.
Send them back.
He
Didn't say
hangs up,
anything
and
to us.
we're just standing there. And then that's when I called
Thatcher.
Thatcher. I was like, hey, can you come down and get us? We're down in the lobby. He's like, what?
Like, what's a lobby?
You're like,
How did you guys get to the plaza in the first place?
I just
No idea.
The address he gave us was the correct address, but the first time I clicked it, it just took us down there. And it just what the GPS said.
And then I got on my. It was his phone.
And my alarm bells were
phone.
ringing. I was like, why are we in the plaza? Why are we in a bank? But I still was
Bro,
trusted technology
Thatcher's
too
like, I
much.
sent him the link, and I was like, why didn't they just use the maps?
I did.
And he, like,
He saw it. He's
Yeah.
my-
He thought we were like, he's like, I thought they just like, I just thought it was on the plaza. We just drove to the plaza and called you. Like, where is it at from here?
Yeah. No. That was not it.
my
we do
gosh.
have a lot of people that walk into the mall back here. And
that's
they're
what
like,
we
how
do.
do I get in?
We walked.
Yeah.
We walked because it's like there's construction there. Felix like, just get out. We're just walking over there.
Hey, trying
Whatever.
to get here on time. I've been in the exact same situation where the Target parking lot didn't let you go through.
no.
You were just like,
Right there.
screw it. I'm just parking here.
Just
parking and walking.
Dude, every day there's something different here. So,
Well,
appreciate you
dude,
guys
so I'm
taking
glad
the
you
time.
found it, man.
Yes.
Yeah, this
Awesome.
was awesome.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Oh, too fun.
Do your thing. Get to class.
Yeah.